Hello humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. For a while now, YouTubers have been talking about Ubisoft being in trouble. Right, but now we have reports of a failed audit. And what does this mean? Right? Don't you wish you had somebody in your life that could explain these financial crises in layman's terms? Well, you came to the right place, right? You know such a person. That is me. I'm going to put on the old college hat to explain to you what's going on with Ubisoft and why the halt in trading and the failed audit is such a problem. You know, Ubisoft is not only facing report delays and weak sales, it's now dealing with an audit failure that questions the accuracy of their financial statements. That is huge. That is huge. This kind of problem puts the company under outside pressure really fast. You know, a more accurate analogy would probably be they're up shit creek without a paddle right now. Now, if you want to talk about the core of the problem, it's this: an outside auditor, you know, somebody like myself, flagged errors in Ubisoft's recorded revenue. That is serious, guys. Let me tell you, a publisher that size should have strong accounting systems. This is inexcusable. For a company this size, inexcusable, right? And it's a huge red flag for investors. If revenue is wrong, it means that the entire financial picture of the company becomes unreliable. You know, then Ubisoft delayed its earnings report. Ubisoft also requested a trading suspension. Companies only really do this, guys, you know, and this is just my opinion, when the numbers are not ready for public release. This indicates that the internal controls of the company when it comes to finances are not working as they should. You know, when revenue reporting fails, guys, it's more than an accounting slip, right? It's a direct violation of the agreements that maintain the public's the company's public stability. Right? Why does this audit failure matter so much, right? Why is it such a big deal in the finance world? Well, guys, public companies operate under strict obligations. These include like legal, contracts, financial. When an audit flags a revenue error specifically, it threatens all these three things at once, right? Because you have, for example, let's talk about loan agreements. When Ubisoft borrows money, the lenders require accurate financial statements. That's how you get a loan. Right? These are called covenants. You know, that the measure of cash flow, debt ratios, revenue reliability. You know, if these numbers, even when they correct them, fall below the required levels, then the company risks violating these covenants. A violation gives the lenders, for example, the power to raise interest rates, demand immediate repayment, or they can even force the company, in this case Ubisoft, to new terms under, you know, higher interest rates, or a contract that favors the bank more than it used to before, right? You're losing money. The other issue is the stock exchange rules, right? Listed companies, they have to file earnings on time and ensure that the numbers are accurate to reflect their actual performance. A delay caused by inaccurate revenue puts Ubisoft at risk of non-compliance. This is huge, right, for any stock exchange company. You know, this is why Ubisoft suspended trading, because if they didn't, then the exchange itself could impose sanctions and trading limitations. You don't want that. You want accurate reports, right? And then you can add to that shareholder obligations, right? If you're a shareholder that holds, you know, a bunch of stock in this company, you have to rely on truthful reporting. If not, what are you investing in? You know, incorrect revenue for investors means distorted information. That opens the door for what? Lawsuits, of course. You know, investors can claim that they made decisions based on false data. You know, a publisher with failing sales cannot afford legal battles. You know, you're already not making enough money because you're putting out crappy games. Now you have to pay for lawyers too. I mean, that gets pretty expensive pretty quick. It'll put you in the red. And then you also have to think about partner agreements, right? They just inked that deal with Ubisoft. With Tencent. Ubisoft now works with Tencent. Who else do they have deals with? Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, people that they put games on. Now, these contracts often include revenue sharing. If the revenue is misreported, what do you think happens? Partners, they question, like, hey, are we getting the correct payments? If you're shuffling the numbers, right? And Ubisoft's new partnership with Tencent is valued in billions. It also relies on accurate financial information. A failed audit could impact that trust, between the companies. And and Ubisoft right now needs that strong backing. Right, but to wrap it all up, what does this mean for Ubisoft and their future? Errors errors, especially of this size, guys, they really reveal internal weaknesses. Ubisoft now faces several risks. They face tighter finance. Lenders are going to be more cautious. Higher operation costs. Why? Because, after this audit failure, you're going to have to monitor things more closely, increase controls, oversight, a stronger finance team. You have to spend money to correct this. Hopefully it's correctable, right? You also have to face cuts and consolidation because obviously you're too big and you're not managing your company that well. So, usually when this kind of thing happens, this kind of financial pressure, it reduces headcounts right away. You're going to see layoffs. You can take this to the bank. These people are going to lay off people. And then you're going to have more influence from outside investors, and that's not a bad thing because this company, especially the leadership, has doubled down in making games that their customers don't want. It's the strangest thing, regardless of the business, regardless of what business you're in, if you decided to get into a business, you're not going to make products that your customers don't want. That's insane, especially when your customers are telling you, we don't want this, and you still make it and double down. That's just a crazy idea. And these are the results, right? And you're going to have lower now creative output because you're going to feel pressure to, make games that for sure are going to sell, right? They're just going to make more of the same that's been successful before. You're not going to see them take any big chances. Now, what does it mean for you and me, the players, right? Again, you're going to see fewer risks, slower development, right? A lot of remakes because they're going to rely on proven franchises, and Ubisoft has to demonstrate control over its own financing so it can focus on games again. Right now, this audit failure is a turning point. It affects every part of the business. It questions the leadership. It questions internal controls. It increases the pressures from lenders, stakeholders, and partners, guys. Ubisoft still has strong IPs, don't get me wrong, right? The company's not in danger of going out of business, but this threat with this, audit loss really threatens their independence, right? They're going to lose independence by growing weaker with bargaining power, for example. Their credit is going to be shot, and you're going to have a creative slowdown because you can't afford that many people anymore. And Ubisoft, bottom line, guys, they need accurate books, discipline management, and a stable release schedule. Not all these delays and hiring all these idiots that are unproven in the game industry, making pet projects that they wish they could have made in college with somebody else's money. That's the bottom line here. This company is going to carry this audit failure like dragging a boulder up a hill, or going up a hill in roller skates. This company is in trouble. They need a correction and they need it fast, if not a complete buyout. Now that's just my opinion, guys. But basically this audit, it puts them under all those dangers I described, right? If this reporting is accurate, this is what this means for the company. All right, guys, thank you for joining me so much. I thought I'd just, tell you about this because I read this story and, I wanted to break it down because the way they put it in this article is just, very quick. I'll link it down below, but it doesn't really go deep into the subject. So, I'm more than happy to break it down for you. All right, humans, I will catch you on the next one. Take care.